Alrighty, this little video is to introduce you to my buttonholer. And they have them in different brands. Mine is a Necchi. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. It's Italian. But anyway, these were very popular early days, like 1910s through 1940s. And it's called a Rotary Buttonhole Attachment. Okay, there's different brands. Look for them on eBay. Mine is for a low shank machine. So if you're buying one, make sure that it's going to match the shank height of your machine. So, just going to do a little demonstration. I am in no way a professional on this, but I have figured out how mine works. So, the first thing I need to do is make a bobbin. And I run this on my treadle machine because I love my treadle machine. It's good to have some purpose for it so that it keeps, well used. But also, it has the perfect size shank for my buttonholer, so win-win. So I'm making a bobbin, and yes, I do have my thread down, wrapped through my little screwdriver thing, just because it works better that way. This machine, it doesn't have a little cog down here for thread. It just wanted you to go straight from here to there, and it seems to hold better if I have it down below, so that's what I'm doing. So anyway, I think that's enough. I'm gonna tighten that up, clip my bobbin thread. Okay, so let me go ahead and load this bobbin and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my bobbin thread pulling through. My top thread is coming through my needle. It's all put. These come with this little plate that screws on. There's little holes in your machine right here. And you have to kind of experiment and find one that's threaded up right to hold it steady. I don't really like this screw because it sticks up so high, but at the same time, it's easy to get to. So, figure it out. But you need to make sure that hole in this plate is lined up right on top of the hole in your actual sewing machine plate, because you don't want to bust your needles. So the next thing to do is this is the buttonholer. This is the part that gets screwed onto the shank, and this slides over this little adjustment screw that holds your needle on. So sometimes it's a little wonky, but you just make it work. So I slide this thing over that screw and wiggle it so that this is over where I can put my little nut back in there. So I got my little nut. Hang on a second, let me raise you up. Okay, so actually I needed to take it back off because I need to choose what size buttonhole I want to make. These are the buttons I'm going to be using. Now, it has this little plate. Here's the attachment. Underneath there's this little opening. And this part here moves. This is a little cog, and that cog fits over these. These little pieces, it comes with, or it should come with, several different sizes and shapes. This shape, okay, where it's just a plain oval, that shape will make just a regular buttonhole, but instead of making a bar tack at the end, see if you can see, it just keeps continuing with that same type of stitch all the way around, so it's a nice rounded edge, which is lovely. Then mine also comes with, for some of the larger sizes, a keyhole one, which is fabulous for thicker garments, something with like a jacket or a coat or something. You just want to have a little something extra. So I have keyhole ones. So right now what I need to do is pick a buttonhole that's going to go with this button. So I'm going to go with this one, and you can see on the back they're marked with the size. This is 5/8, and I'm going to use that for these buttons. So I'm going to put the rest of these back in the little box, keep them safe and sound, and pop the cog that I've chosen in the back. So they can only go in one way, and if it doesn't want to go in easily, just keep wiggling it around. It just needs to work its way underneath around that cog. There. So now it's flat. Close it up, and it's ready to go back onto the machine like we did just a few minutes ago. Okay, so I'm just going to go through my process on this scrap here, and what I have done is I have marked this line where I want my buttonholes to start. That's my guideline. This line here are where I want my buttonholes to be centered on. So the first buttonhole, when I'm doing a whole series of them, I do the first one slightly different than the others, and you'll see. But what you do is while the presser foot is up, okay, that's down, that's up, there's a knob back here, okay? You turn that knob until it's rotated all the way so it is the farthest back and centered that it will get, which is right there, okay? Now I'm going to put my fabric under here, and what I want to do is line it up so that when I put my needle down, it is directly on that center point, and it is at that crosshatch mark, so it's going to start exactly where I want. Now, don't put it through the fabric yet. What you need to do is put it down once, back up once, your presser foot is still up, pull your thread. What you're going to need to do is pull that bobbin thread up. So you pull your needle thread, the bobbin thread loops up, I just pull it out. Then put the presser foot down, and there's a little mark in the back and a mark in the front. I line those two marks up with the center of my line that I drew. And that's going to make my buttonhole align with the buttonhole mover. Let's see if I can do this. So here's a little mark back here, and here's a little mark up here. And I am aligning the line that I drew for the center of my buttonhole with those two. And my needle placement is right at the crosshatch where I want it to start. Hopefully, if it's not, shift your fabric now before you start. All right, so I'm there. So I have both threads on top here. So I'm going to get started. Because it's a treadle, I have to make sure I always turn it towards me, slowly get it started. And the buttonholer is going to move the whole mechanism back and forth. For like the first 6-8 stitches, I rock these two threads back and forth so I make sure that they are caught and held under. Okay, that way I can cut off this tail and it's just going to disappear. Then I just continue, and I'm not pushing this, I'm not touching it, I'm letting that little mechanism work all it wants to by itself. And then when it gets to the bottom, I let it overlap several stitches just to make sure, and then cut it off. Raise up this. Now, normally if I was just doing one buttonhole, I would pull the thing out and trim it right there. I'm going to be doing some in series, like you would if you're going down the opening of a dress or a collar or something. So what I do then is I just move the whole fabric over, line up my needle with that start point. Okay, turn while the presser foot is up, turn my little mechanism so it's at the very beginning center, and my points are lined up with the see, it can go all the way around here and there. So I'm going to make sure my points are lined up with my line. My needle is at center. I drop it down. I'm leaving this thread connected here for right now. I'm not going to cut those until I'm done. Okay, and let's do the last one over here just for funsies. Moving it over, making sure my cog is all the way to the back first. Oops, I went too far. You can get to the center, but if you scoot it over one too many, it's a little off. So, I've got my holder in place. Now I need to put my needle in place, and it's at that point that I want it to start. Put the needle down, put the presser foot down so all these things line up, and let's get her started. Overlap a couple stitches and pull it off. And by overlapping a couple stitches down there at the beginning, that's where the most pressure on your buttons are going to be anyway, because that's where the strain would be. So it's a good thing. All right, so now I can just clip these threads and then cut those buttonholes however you normally would, with either buttonhole scissors or a chisel or whatever you do, you do. But you can see, well, this is even the back side. So this was the bobbin thread, and that is the needle thread, and it looks great on both sides. Okay, so now I'm gonna put my button up there, and yep, my button's gonna go through there. It's not gonna give me a lot of space. Maybe I should have chosen a bigger one, but you know what? I think that'll be good, because what I'm gearing this up for is to do the dress, and I want to make sure these buttons don't come unbuttoned accidentally, so I don't mind them being a little tight. But that's how it works. It's a great little device. If you find one, just make sure it works with the right shank of your machine. All it needs is a straight stitch machine. My machine doesn't even have reverse. It does not need reverse. It does not need zigzag. It does not need anything like that. So, yeah, great little thing. There it is. Enjoy.